And what I'd like to start with is a little bit of background about the school. So if I can get Matt to change the slide, I want to begin with our president, Marvin Malika, who began his tenure as president of NewSchool this January. Marvin is a longtime, well-known architecture and design educator, deeply involved in the program and in issues of education and practice. Very strong proponent of the IPAL program, the integrated path, IPAL as we call it at NewSchool. And this is very much consistent with his vision. So we're pleased to have him here. We think the timing relative to IPAL is perfect. Let's take a look at our mission to nurture and inspire design-minded students. As you see on the other side of the screen, we have degrees in architecture and other areas, graduate and undergraduate programs in construction management, as well as in design and digital arts. We're affiliated in that regard with the Domus Academy in Milan to offer those degrees. Architecture was the founding program at NewSchool more than 35 years ago. Construction management, a natural add-on for us. Many of our architecture students enroll in construction management classes along the way, and vice versa. And in architecture, we offer both graduate and undergraduate degree programs. For our purposes today, IPAL is a graduate track, and we're going to be telling you a lot about that in a few minutes. Let's move to the next slide. Our philosophy is rooted in design thinking, and you'll see something else here in the caption. We focus on a preparation for practice from day one. That has been a foundational concept between NewSchool. Project-based learning is something we do in our design studios all the time. It's one of those hot button topics in education in general, but in architecture school, it's really something that's second nature for us. We have what we call 4 educational pillars. These are 4 founding principles behind the school. And again, you see as number 1 on that list, preparation for practice. We've been about getting students ready for rewarding and fulfilling careers in architecture and other design-related fields as one of the beginning premises of NewSchool. So that's very consistent with where we see the IPAL program heading. In addition to that, we're part of a network of schools that has a truly international reach, a global outlook that we encourage in our students. We continue to believe sustainability is a principle that underlies everything we do. We think sustainably, we teach about sustainable design. We are developing designers for a sustainable planet. It really is a core principle. And lastly is the idea of urban engagement. We are in the heart of downtown San Diego. We are involved in what goes on in our community in a number of different ways. We see San Diego as our urban laboratory, and it's sort of part of the DNA of the school. So these are, I think, the things that set us aside from many other schools, and each in its own way has something to offer our students at both graduate and undergraduate levels. A few comments about our credentials and our accreditations. We are accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges. That's the regional accreditation required of schools of architecture. And WASC is considered the gold standard amongst those regional accreditors, so we're very proud of that standing. We're also NAAB accredited, and we've been NAAB accredited for years. And that is, for those of you who aren't familiar with the accreditation process, that is the accreditation standard you want in a school of architecture. Our programs have received coverage outside of the U.S. Frame Magazine lists us as one of their 30 graduate programs around the world to look at. Our faculty are award-winning designers and architects. Our students win awards. We're very proud of the accomplishments of both our faculty and our student body. And you'll see that come to bear in the IPAL program as you move through school here at NewSchool. You see here in yellow, career and industry focus. It's all part of that preparation for practice. We have outstanding relationships with design firms in San Diego, in the region, and beyond. Really interested in what goes on in industry and bringing those ideas and concepts and lessons to bear at NewSchool. And we're very proud of our job placement rate, 91%, actually right now a little bit above that, within 6 months of graduation, and that's placement within the field. That means for architecture students, jobs in design firms doing what students set out to do in the first place. We have an excellent career services department that works constantly with students to ensure meaningful jobs, meaningful internships and careers in the field for which they're training. And that's something that obviously will be very important in the IPAL program. It's something we're going to get into in a little bit more detail later. And I also want to stress, these are paid internships. We follow the AIA and industry standards about internship. We think students need to be paid for that work. It's very important to us as well. We're in the heart of downtown San Diego. It's an area of innovation. We are part of the East Village neighborhood, and more specifically something called the IDEA District. IDEA stands for Innovation, Design, Education, and the Arts. NewSchool is seen as one of the founding institutions in the IDEA District, and we think we have something to offer in each of those categories, from innovation through the arts. So it is part of NewSchool. It is part of that urban engagement I talked about earlier. And San Diego is just a very dynamic place to go to school, to work in architecture, and downtown is as dynamic as any part of the city. So let's take a look at the program, the IPAL program at NewSchool. We are one of the original 14 charter members accepted by NCARB, the National Council of Architectural Registration Boards, to participate in an integrated path program. One of 3 programs in California, only 4 on the entire West Coast. And one of the few programs, I think, that is offering a graduate degree through the IPAL program. And as I say, for a school like ours that has been so focused on practice, on our industry relationships, on careers in architecture and design field, it makes sense to be involved at this level. IPAL, the integrated path, does something that's very important to NCARB, and that is that it integrates what they call the 3 E's: education, experience, examination. Education, of course, that's what we do. We provide the graduate education. Experience is the internship that is integrated into the program over years 2, 3, and 4 of our IPAL program, and we'll look at the program in detail in a minute. And examination, in this case we're talking about the ARE, the Architectural Registration Exam, and the ability of students in this program to begin to take those exam sections as they move through the program. So it puts the 3 E's together in a manner that NCARB has been talking about for years and years, and that we fully support. And let's head to the next slide. And say a few things about the program at NewSchool. As the 3 E's slide showed you, you complete a NAAB accredited architecture degree. you complete the professional internship and take the licensure exams through the program in a way that, provided you're successful in this process, places you into the field at an advanced position all the sooner. We're concerned, as many are, about the lengthening period between start of architecture school and a final examination and licensure that has been occurring. It's something like 12 or 13 years in that process, depending on who you talk to. We think that's too long. We think that's discouraging to architecture students. We hear that from our own students all the time. And IPAL is designed to begin to offer an alternative to that kind of timeline. There are a number of benefits to the program at NewSchool. One, that practice orientation I've been talking about repeatedly, and the strong industry relationships we have. We have a faculty composed of practitioners. We're involved in practice. We're involved in design and architecture in our day-to-day work, and we bring those lessons to the program. We're downtown. We're very close to many of the architectural firms who students may be interning with. That makes it convenient. That makes it easy to juggle both the school and internship components. And we have those all-important architectural and institutional accreditations that will become important towards licensure and are a requirement in some states, as a matter of fact. We're looking to begin this fall. That's, I'm sure, why you're on this call right now. And what we're looking for simply are students interested in pursuing architectural licensure. The IPAL benefits I've already talked about. What makes this program go is all these things happen while you're in school, and we'll talk in detail about how that's going to happen. A few of the features of the program before we get into the nitty-gritty of the curriculum. It builds on what we already do and what we call our 4+3 curriculum. That simply refers to the fact that you come into the program with a 4-year undergraduate degree and typically follow a 3-year path towards a Master of Architecture first professional degree. And as many of you may know, the first professional degree is the one that counts towards licensure. That's the degree that the National Architectural Accrediting Board accredits. The internship begins in year 2 of this curriculum. That will be different for students coming in with advanced standing, which I'll talk about in a minute. You see the note here, IDP internship hours are paid. We want to follow industry guidelines and AIA guidelines on that component of this. 2 sections of the exam, 2 of the test sections are planned to be taken each year in years 2, 3, and 4 of the program. So there is a reasonable and manageable process for completing those exam sections as you move through the program. The final year of IPAL is a practicum. It involves full-time employment and also an academic component, and we'll talk about how that works. And the last bullet point here, an important one, I imagine for many of you, that advanced placement is possible for students who come in with a 4-year undergraduate degree in architecture. That's a Bachelor of Science in Architectural Studies or a Bachelor of Arts or Architectural Technology, and an undergraduate program that is geared toward preparing you for internship or for graduate study at an advanced level. So Matt, let's take a look at the next slide here. And this lays out the program in some detail, so I'll spend a few minutes on this. The color coding, by the way, is based on course and content areas. So you see each of the first 3 years a design studio in blue. That is, as many of you will have experienced in undergraduate education, is a keystone of the program here at NewSchool, and it's a keystone of the IPAL curriculum. In that first year, there is a 4-quarter sequence that involves structures and statics, 2 quarters of representation to follow along with the design studio. Materials and methods courses, there's a 3-quarter architectural history sequence, an environmental psychology class, and 2 quarters in IPAL practice, which is a new component of our traditional graduate program for students. There is required summer coursework, including electives. We do require students to be on campus for 12 credits of coursework, minimum of 12 credits, which is full-time status in the graduate program in NewSchool. So the work component does not begin yet. You'll be busy enough with full-time coursework, but we're getting you ready for that component of this. Now, students in the first year of the program, this year 1 of IPAL, will be students without an undergraduate degree in architecture. That's our expectation. So we really are beginning at the start of your architecture training. Year 2, which would be the second year for students on the 4-year track, but the first year for those with an undergraduate architecture degree who receive advanced standing, will continue the studio sequence. There is 3-quarter coursework also in environmental science that involves sustainability, energy efficiency, mechanical systems, lighting and daylighting, and so forth. There is a year-long professional practice sequence, provisions also for professional electives. That's the bright red band you see in the second year. And you're beginning your internship. And for us, an internship component is doable in the graduate program because none of our required graduate coursework is scheduled before 1 p.m. So we'll expect students to be working mornings, roughly a half-time position, taking this set of courses along the way. That's a 15-credit course load that you're seeing in the studio and other bands across fall, winter, and spring. And towards the end of year 2, then, you're ready to begin to take sections of the architectural registration exam, and you see in the light purple color at the bottom of year 2, 2 of the exam sections. In the summer, the plan is that you'll work full-time. That's shown as a dark gray band. And at the end of this 4-quarter sequence, I'm including the summers here, you'll have accumulated 1,140 hours of IDP credit, as well as completing the second year of the program and having taken 2 years of the ARE. Moving on to the third year, there is once again the design studio component. There is a year-long theory sequence, and also in blue, excuse me, a year-long research component that follows the studio track. Once again, part-time internship over the 3 academic quarters and a full-time summer of employment. Students in excuse me, year 3 also take sections of the exam. In the last year, you are employed full-time for the 3 quarters, and at the same time taking a practicum course which will be offered online. And that means while you could consider remaining employed in San Diego, you also have the option to take on a job opportunity in another city and work on completing your program at NewSchool through distance education. We also want you to continue that progress towards completing the examination, so you see the last 2 sections of the ARE at that point. And we want applicants keep in mind that this summer marks the beginning of the new architectural registration exam. It is a 6-part exam, has some differences from the previous versions of the ARE. And so we're going to be addressing that through the IPAL program, through some of the coursework that you'll be taking and the special training you'll be receiving in order to begin to tackle these components of the exams successfully. One more thing I'd like to point out here is that while we're requiring you to sit for each section of the exam at least once, we can't guarantee results on an exam like this that we don't control, so we're not requiring that to complete the program you pass all 6 sections of the exam. We want to see it happen. We're going to help you get to that point, but it is not a condition of graduation at NewSchool. It can't be. So you finish by the end of 4 year, you graduate in the spring. Part of our spring commencement, for those of you with advanced standing, that would be your 3rd year of the IPAL program. So this little timeline tells you in simple form what I just tried to describe. If you come in with the green bar, the unrelated baccalaureate degree, and are accepted into the IPAL program, it's 4 years of study and internship, three years of full-time architectural education, 3 years of part-time employment plus those full-time summers, and then that last practicum year, at the end of which you have a Master of Architecture first professional degree, you've completed your IDP hours, and you've taken each section of the registration exam. Now, for students whose states of licensure require some additional component, that will happen upon completion of the degree. For California residents, for instance, there is a supplemental examination that happens after the ARE is completed successfully, and that is outside of the timeline for the IPAL program. The lower track is the advanced standing version of IPAL. The blue bar indicates an undergraduate degree in architecture. And these programs have different names at different schools, typically architectural studies, architecture technology, BA or a BS because it's a 4-year degree. The IPAL program then correspondingly is 3 years. You see the shorter red bar. And at the end of that accelerated pathway, you have your first professional degree, the graduate degree, you've completed IDP, and you've taken those 6 sections of the architectural registration exam as well. So 2 different versions, 2 different ways to move through the program. It depends on what your undergraduate training is.
Kurt, we had a few questions about this specifically, so I think we might have to revisit it at the end and talk a little bit more about some of your backgrounds and how you would fit into this IPAL track.
Absolutely. We have a number of firms in San Diego who we've been working with relative to IPAL. We list 7 of them here, and there are others. These were sort of our initial group of interested design firms. HOK, I should add, that's through the Los Angeles office. They're very interested in being involved, and some of these are some of the largest firms in San Diego and in the area. We have a very active architectural advisory board, and they contribute to the discussion as well. We have an IPAL committee that will coordinate activities and be involved in the admission and review process, and an industry working group that really comprises principals and associates from these firms and others that is a very, very key partner in our ability to offer such a program. So the application process, I'm sure there are questions about this. It involves two steps. The first is applying to the graduate program at NewSchool. This is set out on our website. It's also contained in detail in our catalog. I won't go into a great deal of depth about that process. And this is the one anyone interested in the graduate programs would be involved with. In this case, it's aimed at the M.Arch 1, the first professional degree program. So you apply for acceptance into the graduate program initially and indicate in that process your interest in the IPAL program, if indeed this is a track that you wish to pursue. Then there is a review by the IPAL committee specifically for acceptance into the IPAL program. That group will be looking at the initial application materials. It will also be looking for some additional material, letters of reference, a statement from you as a candidate addressing your interest in IPAL, why you think you'd be a good fit for such a program. There will be specific portfolio requirements and one or two other details along with that that we'll make available to applicants as we get the specifics for that second step review established and out on our website for everyone. So it is a two-step process. It begins with the same first step that all students applying to the graduate program here would take, and then moves into a second component along the way.
Let me just take a minute to reintroduce myself. My name is, again, Matt Acklin. I'm the enrollment manager here at NewSchool. I know we're going to have some additional questions about that, and I'm going to be sharing my contact information at the end of this presentation. So feel free to take down my information and contact me directly, and we can talk a little bit more offline about the application process. I know, Fernando, you have a question here about having already been admitted to NewSchool, how you can take the next step to go into the IPAL program. We can definitely address that, and you know, that's what I do here. That's my role. I'm here to help you guys out with the application process, and if you are interested in this program, I'm your contact to help you make that happen.
Why don't we go to the last slide for the moment.
We're there already, yeah.
There we are. It's got Matt's information on it, and I want to go back to the words in the blue band, because what we're doing in this new curriculum is integrating these things, and that's why IPAL begins with integrated. It is not only the professional degree curriculum based on the graduate program that we've had in place for years at NewSchool. It is the internship opportunity that comes along with that. And again, for those of you new to the webinar, that's a paid internship. We're not expecting anyone to do this for free. And it involves those divisions of the architectural registration exam that up to this point were not open to students currently enrolled in architecture programs. So this is a program that has strong support from NCARB. That's why we're one of the charter schools in their initiative. It's one that makes a great deal of sense with NewSchool's tradition of focusing on preparing students for careers in practice. It works with our practitioner faculty. It is, I think, part of our orientation to the change that's going on in the profession, to our situation as a school in the midst of development and interesting things happening in San Diego and the region. It's something that just seems to make sense for us to offer. And as I said at the outset, we're very excited to be doing this, part of a pioneering group that is offering this kind of program. And we're keen to get underway and begin to help students more effectively prepare for careers in architecture as licensed architects.
Okay, and again, there's my contact information at the bottom of the slide that you're seeing here. That is my direct phone number. If you have questions, it's 619-684-8822. You can call me directly. The email address there, it looks like we have a little bit of a typo. That's Acklin, Acklin, at newschoolarc.edu. We left the U off, so make sure you put that U in there. And feel free to email me, call me directly if you have any follow-up questions. But for right now, I think we're going to address some of the questions that we got during the presentation.
Well, I want to add one thing. Okay. And Matt and I have worked together for years, and if it's an academic question and he's not sure the answer, he's very good at getting a hold of me. I'll weigh in at that point. So if you have something you think is really specific to the program, or a very specific kind of curriculum-related question, I would say go ahead and ask it. We'll get an answer to you.
Yeah, if I don't have the answer, I will definitely find somebody who does. So feel free to just contact me, and I'll get you in touch with who you need to get in touch with. So let's see if we can go back. We had a couple questions during the presentation. I want to get to those first, and then at the end, we can also, I mean, feel free to chime in right now if you have additional questions. I'm just going to go through and see if we can answer a few of these. Let's see, Fernando asked, as a freshman student, he hears us saying internship. Can freshman students begin from the first year doing internship?
Well, I'll field that one. I guess the operative word is can. If you can do that and juggle full-time coursework, we have no objection to it. We're not going to be placing first-year students in internships. Now, that's not to say you couldn't enroll in the program and line up something for yourself. Maybe you know people have contacts in design firms and can do that. But our involvement in that process begins with students in year two. And I want to spend a moment on this topic because I want everyone to be very clear, and you're going to hear a little something that I always talk about in our orientations for new students, and that's being realistic about your time commitment. Many of our graduate students in the current program take on internships and work in design firms while they're going to school for a number of reasons. They want the experience, they're working on IDP hours, they need the money. I could certainly relate as a one-time grad student. They see nice opportunities to segue into a career later on. On the other hand, many of our students don't. They are in school full-time, they want to focus on their studies. They feel that's enough of a time commitment to do that along the way. With the IPAL program, you're both a full-time student in the academic year in years 2 and 3 of the program, and a part-time intern. And that may not be the right path for everyone. We want you to be successful, whatever you do. So I want people to be realistic about their ability to manage their time, about their energy level. Everyone's a little bit different, so I want to make sure everyone fully understands that. Secondly, because of our commitment to completing the IDP as you complete the program here, it involves full-time summer employment. Now, I bring this up because many of our graduate students like to take advantage of study abroad programs and summer travel, and I'm a big proponent of that, and being in the IPAL and following the track that we set forth really precludes any kind of substantial summer travel, something other than what you might be able to do between quarters. So I caution you that this may not be for everyone because there is a substantial time commitment here. There is that work component, and we want to be sure that students can successfully balance all of that. So just a few comments from my end, a little bit of perspective on putting all of this together. Hopefully that helps you in your thinking about whether IPAL is the right program for you.
For sure. S. Brown asked the difference in time between the IPAL and the M.Arch 1 degree. I think we covered that in the presentation, but it's a 1-year difference.
Right. The IPAL academic curriculum is very, very similar to our traditional 4+3 program for students qualifying for advanced standing to the 4+2 program. It does involve the practicum year, the full-time employment, and the practicum course that goes along with that. So the primary difference is in that last year of the program, but also in the internship, the required internship along the way, and in the test taking that goes along with it. Hope that answers your question.
And if you do have other questions about that, S. Brown, please let us know. Okay, so Ruben has a question here. He has a bachelor's of environmental design. He's very interested in transferring to NewSchool if he can achieve licensure faster because he's 36 years old and he has a lot of residential drafting experience.
Okay, good question. And Ruben, I can't tell you off the top. And I say that because with the Bachelor of Environmental Design program, we will look very carefully at particular coursework. And in the graduate program, we look at each candidate carefully anyway. But we want to be sure that you have completed somewhere in the Hawaii program everything that we would expect in a first-year student at NewSchool in order to place you into year 2, into the advanced standing category of IPAL. I think the residential experience is going to help. You know your way around some things that will give you a definite advantage. Internship in this case, applying to IDP means that it is under the direct supervision of a licensed architect, and that will be our focus with the program at NewSchool. So I can't tell you much off the top. It will take looking at a file and really scrutinizing the background and the academic credentials and so forth. And that's what we do in the graduate program regardless. So appreciate the question and the interest, and I hopefully that gave you a little bit of information you didn't have already.
Another question about background. Ellie Hoffman says she has a bachelor's of interior design. It's a question that actually comes up quite a bit. Kurt, I'll let you field that. Where do you see that fitting into the IPAL track?
Ellie, typically with a bachelor's in interior design, we will not be giving advanced placement. It's good training to begin the IPAL process. It's substantially different from the way, in our experience, from the way we approach design and what would happen in the first year of the program. We also have that 4-quarter structure sequence, which is a critical component of the program as well, that we don't commonly find in graduates with an interior design degree. So it's likely that it would be a 4-year program in this case. But I will mention something, and this might apply to anyone in the program. There is the potential for course waivers for some coursework that, in our view, matches what we teach at NewSchool at the graduate program level. If we see in your undergraduate curriculum coursework that's substantially the same and it's it's work for which you received an A or a B grade. At the discretion of the admission committee, we may be able to waive that requirement. What does a waiver mean? That means that allows you to replace that course with an elective of your own choosing. It doesn't change the total number of credits required for the program. We can't apply undergraduate credits transferring against graduate coursework, but it does give you a little bit of flexibility. It allows you to pick other coursework that perhaps you're interested in taking. So the potential for waivers are always there for students who come out of an undergraduate architectural or design program. Thanks for the question.
So Nadeem has a question specifically regarding an international transcript. So that's another thing that comes up quite a bit with enrollment. There's actually a very good percentage of international students in the graduate program. So, I mean, typically what we do in those cases, Nadeem, is we have to evaluate the transcript first to determine its U.S. equivalency. Once we're able to do that, I mean, if it's equivalent to an undergraduate degree in architecture in the U.S., then you would be looking at the 2-year track. Yep. Or the 3-year track in the case of IPAL.
And absolutely true. And Matt said it. And really, the bottom line is we want to ensure that you have a comprehensive professional education. That's why we look at these things so carefully and take review of undergraduate education so seriously, because we want to make sure you have all the tools that you need to be successful in practice. So good question. Not an unusual one for us. And Matt mentioned in our international student component, we are a very diverse program, something I'm very proud of. One of the most diverse programs at both the graduate and undergraduate level of any architecture school in California, and California's schools are about as diverse as any in the country. And I think that's the strength of the student body. We have people from Southern California, the regional area, but also from all over the country and beyond, and I think that's the strength of the program and something we really strive to achieve.
And one last thing, Nadeem, I don't know if you would actually be applying as an international student or if your background in education is just from an international college, but I did want everyone to know that we do have a specific department in enrollment that focuses just on international enrollment. You can contact me and I'll definitely, again, put you in touch with the right people. Fernando wants to apply. And again, I'm happy to just reach out to me, Fernando, and I will help you out with the process. Ellie comes back here with a vengeance. She has several questions.
There's a lot of good questions.
Okay, so we already talked about, Ellie, the interior design program, and I think Kurt addressed that. So there are the possibilities of course waivers if you've taken anything. We don't want you repeating classes that you've already taken, that you are information you've already learned.
Let me say one more thing on the first part of that. It's based on our experience over years. We need to ensure that people are as prepared as they can be for careers in architecture, for the diverse training that architecture has. There are differences between what we do and what happens in interior design programs. And that's why I say that typically we would expect those students to start with the first year of the program. As regards the other questions, I'm looking here at Matt's screen. Professional electives are those taken in architecture or that directly apply to architecture as a professional program here. Now, At NewSchool, I take a very broad view of elective coursework. We want you to expand your learning and your thinking. So for instance, you see a course in our Master of Construction Management program, or even an upper level course in the undergraduate construction management program, that will qualify as a professional elective for you. We want to give people the opportunity to take coursework that can apply to their educational program and on the job. And so we look at our other programs, and where possible, we make things available. We've had a number of graduate students interested in, for instance, our product design course offerings. If it's an upper level program or course with a undergraduate, graduate number to it, we can provide graduate professional elective credit for that as well. There were a couple other questions on it. Can we get back to that list?
The housing, I think we can talk about that in enrollment. I mean, we could talk about that offline.
Which the
recommended housing options.
All right, let me get back to 3. It was preparation for the ARE exam sections. We're beginning with small cohorts in the program, one in year 1, one in year 2. Small meaning 12 to 15 students is a limited enrollment, which is consistent with our policy for the graduate program. And part of excuse me, that movement through the program is training to be prepared for the exam. We've also learned that being part of a team helps in that process. I'm talking about housing.
Sure, I'll give Kurt a minute here. The housing, I mean, we do have housing options that are associated with NewSchool, actually directly across the street. That's something that comes up with many of our relocating students. So that's one of the areas that we focus on in enrollment. When you do apply to our program, even when you just show interest in our program, you're basically assigned to an enrollment specialist, and that's basically your point person to help you out throughout the application process, answering your questions, just taking you from that initial interest all the way through to enrollment. So, you know, that's something that we can definitely help you out with, the housing around NewSchool, the options that are around NewSchool, what area would be right for you around San Diego, connecting you with students who might actually be looking for roommates, current students. So that's all part of the process, and we can talk about that specifically when you're ready to move forward with that conversation.
And one of the things I've been pleased to see, and this goes back to that sustainability pillar that we talk about, a number of our graduate students arrive, they get settled at school, they live downtown. We're a block from a trolley stop.
Yeah.
They sell the car, buy a bike, and between walking and the bike and the trolley system, do quite well getting around town, and in the process live a little more sustainably. So being downtown has a certain number of advantages, and for many students that's one for sure. I want to get to that last question, I think, of Ellie's. Someone who's already had internship, is there flexibility in what happens in summers and during the year? If it's IDP related internship, if you've worked under a licensed architect and are able to have that signed off, absolutely you have flexibility with your time. We're providing that as part of the program, but we recognize that we may have students here who have been working, continue to work, that are working for architects, they're gaining IDP credit, and we'll work with you along the way. The key is to integrate all this to get you ready for practice. So there's going to be some flexibility there, absolutely.
Great. Talk about that.
Thanks, by the way, for the questions. I'm looking at the screen as Matt scrolls through them. Love the level of interest. These are great questions. Some of them are going to require follow-up. He's good at that, and Matt's excellent at getting a hold of me to answer questions, as I said. So we can dig into these as we go.
Fernando has another question about graduate students. Do they start working as drafters or designers? Why?
A good question. That will be, to an extent, between the student and the firm. We will be involved in that. I think it will depend on experience level. Have you had prior experience? It will depend on design ability. It will depend on the needs of the firm. And everyone we've talked to, the firm principals and associates on our advisory board, but others we've talked to about the IPAL program as well, understand that we're in this for the best interest of our students. You need to have a well-rounded internship. We're not interested in a student going into a firm and being stuck in front of a computer in a corner, and that's all you ever see. That's not a very good experience for you. That's not, in the end, helpful for the firm. That doesn't advance you towards licensure. We get that. And so we will be working with the firms to ensure that it's a balanced internship, makes sense for you, it makes sense for them, and leads you towards that training, that completion of IDP, and through the whole internship process. Great question.
I mean, I would hope graduates of this particular program will be graduating to work as architects.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so the tuition and fees of the grad program, I'm pulling that up for you momentarily, Ruben. Why don't we skip over that a second?
And that's a great Matt Acklin question. I stay out of those.
So what we're looking at approximately, Ruben, to answer your question, and I can get you a detailed breakdown, but approximately $27,000 per year for tuition, although there are a number of scholarships and different types of aid opportunities available for not just this program, but across NewSchool and the graduate program. So we can definitely talk about that with you in a moment. Ellie is talking about internship again, and I think we answered that, Ellie. There's the possibility of course waivers. There's
and to go back to the internship thing again, Matt. Mm-hmm. The thing we'll be focusing on is the IDP, which will soon become the AXP, the Architectural Experience Program, through NCARB, because our commitment is to ensure that you have the opportunity to move through that program as you complete the degree. So that will be our particular focus. On the other hand, if you have work experience, IDP or not, that certainly is going to help in the discussion with firms in placing you appropriately. Obviously, someone with that level of experience can come into a firm in a different situation than someone for whom this is the very first time working in an architect's office. So that's an important component of the program, something we don't want to overlook. So I appreciate the questions.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's actually one that's come up quite often for students interested in this program. So something that we definitely will look into for you. The last question, I hope, unless I'm missing any, is from Jairo, who is talking specifically about military students. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with. You want me to field that one?
I can't speak to it.
Okay, so I mean, typically we do have we have a financial aid department here. We have a veteran specialist in the financial aid department. He's really your best resource to answer this question. I will say that we do accept the post 9/11 GI Bill. We accept the Yellow Ribbon program. We are a military-friendly school, and we waive application fees for military students, and we also offer a tuition discount overall for military students. So we're definitely in a very military-friendly city in San Diego, and we work to make sure that our veterans are well taken care of. So I think that wraps it up, Kurt.
And I'd like to say thanks to all of you for joining the conversation, for sending questions, for hearing what we had to say about the program. I'm sure you'll continue to have questions. Get a hold of Matt, and we'll answer them as they come in. Stay tuned to the program, and whatever you decide to do, best of luck with your future plans.
And I'm just providing my email address again for everybody. Don't leave off the U. macklin@newschoolarc.edu. Please contact me for additional details.
And if you're in the area or looking for a trip to sunny San Diego, come on, see us. We love to take people around, talk about NewSchool and the program and the facilities, and as best I can, I try to make time for people coming to see us and see what we're all about. We think this is just a great natural thing for us to be doing. We're really pleased to be part of that first IPAL class, and anxious to get going.
Thank you again, everybody.
Thanks.